and it's time to talk about one past, one present middle linebacker. I'll turn the mic to you.
Well, who are the past and present linebackers? Does it even need to be said? Of course it does, because this is a podcast. We're talking about the great Ray Lewis, the two-time Super Bowl champion and Super Bowl MVP. And then we've got Roquan Smith. Roquan Smith, Agent Zero in the house, who just had one of his best games of his career. And I think I've got some numbers to back that up. But here's what's interesting, Bobby, what all of us did not know is before Roquan Smith went out there and put on a show, we have to remember that Ray Lewis was in the house for that 30th season anniversary. Ray Lewis had his gold jacket on, letting us know who he is. He was talking to so many different players. And then back in the tunnel, right before the defense is about to be announced to come out, Ray Lewis is in Roquan Smith's ear with a message that I think Roquan took to heart.
Hunt. They hunt. Lead them to hunt, bro. 60 minutes this time. You understand? Finish this, man. They gonna follow your lead. Right? We strong individually, but together we'll tell Pacific. Pull them together, bro.
Woo! And all for those that are just listening on audio, all Roquan can do is nod his head. He's just nodding the whole time. He's taking it all in. My favorite part, yes, hunters hunt. But what about this part? He says, if I can unmute it, could you unmute it for me?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were trying to talk over it. Yeah, I mean, there's so much going on. And look at Ozzy and Kyle in the background. I mean, this is awesome. But yeah, I'll go ahead and unmute it.
I just want to get how many minutes worth this time?
Lead them to hunt, bro. 60 minutes this time.
60 minutes this time. Because we know it's what we talked about at the top of the show when people are accusing of stat padding. It's because the Ravens cannot trust their defense, which shouldn't be the case when you have Roquan Smith and Kyle Hamilton and Marlon Humphrey. And we can go on and on with these names. Nnamdi Madubuike, all these guys getting paid. The Ravens should be able to maintain a lead. So when you have the great Ray Lewis coming up there and he says, listen, I know you're a hunter. I know that hunters hunt. You need to lead them because you are the leader of this defense, or at least one of them. It might become Kyle Hamilton sooner than later. Look at Ozzie Newsome in the background hugging Kyle Hamilton, another future leader. It has to be for 60 minutes this time. And Roquan Smith is soaking it all in, Bobby.
Yeah, this is a really cool clip on a number of levels. Clearly, everybody in the live chat's like, oh, yeah, did you hear that? He's digging at him. 60 minutes. He's getting after the fourth quarter performance. We know this was as constructive as it gets, as supportive as it gets from one great to a guy that hopefully one day, I know he has aspirations, Sarah, of being looked at as an all-time great as well. And he played like an all-time great, an all-time Raven performance, perhaps for him personally on Sunday. He was everywhere, 15 combined tackles. Of course, he scooped up Tavius Robinson's strip sack on Joe Flacco, Sarah, and took it 63 yards to the house. Roquan, aside from Myles Garrett, and a couple other Cleveland defenders too, you could probably make the argument, but he was, let's call him one of the best, he was the best defensive Raven, and he was one of the best defensive players on both sides of the ball on Sunday. 3 tackles for loss, 2 quarterback hits, and most importantly, Sarah, and tip your cap to Teddy Buchanan, who has won this starting job, at least for the time being, over Trenton Simpson, a third-year player. A lot of people had high expectations on, but he was demoted last year, and he only recorded 15 defensive snaps, as we've already covered on Sunday against the Browns. He was playing freely, Roquan was. That probably was the most important part, and there's an absolute direct correlation between playing freely and having the type of game that he did. You could cut it loose. He was doing that, Sarah. He was thumping around. He was chasing after Joe Flacco. He was in that mode, right? In that Roquan Agent Zero mode. It was a great, hopefully a sign of things to come. But for right now, a great sign in the here and now.
So how do we measure whether this is his greatest games? You can look at all sorts of stats. Ryan Mink of BaltimoreRavens.com went up and looked up PFF grades. According to PFF, this was the second highest graded game for Roquan Smith in his career. So we got a 91.9. He had those 15 tackles, the 3 for loss, 2 quarterback hits, You talked about the 63-yard touchdown on a fumble recovery. Okay, so what is his highest graded? His highest graded game? It was his 4th game as a Raven. And so this was in 2022 after EDC traded for him. And that game he logged 11 tackles, so we had more in this one. He had a 2 for a loss, so we had more in this recent game. And it was just a defensive slugfest. It was 10-9 where the Ravens barely beat the Denver Broncos. John Harbaugh asked, hey, was this Roquan Smith's greatest game? He says, I've seen so many good ones. It was in that category, but he's such a consistent player. That's probably why it's such a hard question to answer, because he plays so well pretty much every week. Roquan himself was asked, was this your best game? He says, I don't really look into all of that. My job is just to go out each and every week, play the best of my ability, and that's just what I do. I let everybody else decide if it's the best game or not. That's not my decision. I'm just focused on being the best teammate, best leader, and best linebacker for you guys. So excellent answer. Now, here's the thing, Bobby. I wish it were this easy. If all it took was Ray Lewis being back there in the tunnel every week, and then Roquan Smith plays this well, then I think the Ravens would pay Ray Lewis to be in there to do it. I don't think it's that easy, although I do think that Roquan was soaking it all in. I do think it helps, A, that he's healthy. I think it helps that, B, to your point, he has a running mate that he's a little bit more comfortable with. We're going to get to some of the highlights and the film study of him and Teddy Buchanan together. And then number 3, it was Joe Flacco, and might be one of the worst offenses in the league. So I think that all kind of plays into it, but we got to give him his flowers. Bobby, here's what's crazy. That touchdown return off the fumble, he reached 19.06 miles per hour, fastest of his career. How do we not go back and watch this again? Joe Flacco sacked by Tavius Robinson. He's got all green grass ahead. Look, he can just go straight. He can act like he's on the track. The track and field. He's just smooth running it in. So hit 19.06, not quite Nate Wiggins speed or Lamar Jackson speed for that middle linebacker, though. Pretty fast for Roquan. Here it is one more time.
I was going to say, I just want to pause it right there because I know we're talking about Roquan, but I just found myself admiring the closing ferocious speed there from Tavius. Just swallows up Joe Flacco, and Roquan takes the rest. I mean, how about the scoop and score ability? 60+ yards to the house, to your point. Green grass, baby. Agent 0 to the house. Great play. That place was rocking.
Absolutely rocking. Then Ryan Mink compiled all 15 of Roquan Smith's tackles. So let's get this here. We won't slow it down too much because there's 15 to get through. But I'm sorry, I have to slow that one down. I'm sorry. We spoke about Teddy Buchanan. First of all, Roquan Smith, you can't see it much here, but KVN and Tavius Robinson before this are communicating. They knew where the ball was going, and so did Roquan and Teddy. Look at them look at each other. The communication pre-snap. They go right to the hole where it's coming. He goes like untouched. And then look at Teddy right there with him. Right there with him. Look at our linebackers right there in the correct spot. Boom! Blown up in the backfield. One of his 3 tackles for loss. What do we got next here? Ryan Mink's got it all put together here. There's Agent 0 to your right. This one, Joe Flacco's going to step back. Does a check down. Boom! Another tackle for loss. Does my mic cut out when I say boom?
Sort of.
Here we go. Roquan Smith again, right there in the hole. It's like he sees it all. It's like he could see it before it was happening this entire game. This one, he's back in coverage yet again. They try to do a wide receiver screen. Roquan and company are there. He probably shared that one. That was one of his combined tackles. Now we got the other view where we're looking forward to him. Right. He knew that was going to be a sweep to the left. Doesn't get it on the first attempt, gets him around the ankles the second attempt. Here we go again, forward looking at him. Joe Flacco drops back. Why does he keep throwing to these tight ends and running backs where Roquan Smith is at? Like, Joe, you got to avoid Roquan Smith at this point. Has Joe learned his lesson? Okay, he's gonna hand it off here. Look at that. He sheds his tackle. He sheds his blocker there, Bobby. Gets the running back right as he comes by, times it up perfectly. Here we go on the left side here this time. Teddy again right next to him. They both shift to their right. Drops back in coverage. Okay, that one he gave up a few yards. Okay. It's going to happen when there's 15 different things here. I think he probably gave up the first down right there. Here we go again. Joe Flacco drops back. Listen, we could do this all day long. Throws it right to Roquan Smith's area again. We don't need to do all 15. Just keeps going and going and going, Bobby. You can see why people are calling this one of his best games of his career.
Yeah, well, it looks like 2023 Roquan Smith, and that's a welcome sight because we know who his running mate was in 2023. Patrick Queen before leaving for the Pittsburgh Steelers, of course, in free agency. So it's a great sign of things to come, hopefully, for Roquan. Much stiffer challenge and test and overall offense that they'll be facing. Yes, we see in the live chat, those of you that are saying it's the Browns. Sarah's acknowledged it. I've acknowledged it. We get it. But we're also acknowledging what's the truth, and that is one of Roquan's all-time games against a bunch of professionals on the other side, Sarah, that get paid as well. Now, Trenton Simpson, as for his former running mate, we'll see. Jury could still be out, but sure looks like it's Teddy Buchanan's job to lose at this point as weak side linebacker, weak side inside linebacker. But Trenton Simpson was brought up during John Harbaugh's press conference yesterday. And John said that the team would be comfortable with using him potentially in the Sam linebacker role, but does not think that he would be a defensive end candidate. So maybe, sort of in experimental mode for how you can get some usage out of Trenton. But again, John didn't bring this up. It was reporters. So that's just how he handled that question. No idea if this is imminent, this kind of role or usage. But they're looking to get 32 involved, I would think, because, man, he's the athleticism is off the charts. We just haven't seen that yet translate for him productively. On what did he finish with? Was it 15 snaps over Teddy's 60 in terms of defensively?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this was Jeff Zrebeck's question to your point. It's not like Lamar, or it's not like John Harbaugh brought it up out of nowhere. And it's just this idea that it looks like Teddy Buchanan is taking the lead, obviously. And so because Trenton Simpson is good in coverage, he is fast, although it's more the processing that he's been a little bit needs some work. That's why it was asked. And so he almost was like, he was asked about outside linebacker. He's like, well, he could at Sam because that's a little bit more coverage, but defensive end, he mentioned that Kyle Van Noy does both. He does Sam and he's kind of a defensive end at times. And he's like, Trenton couldn't do that, but maybe we could play him a little bit over there. So I don't know that this is like a sign of things to come. It was just a question from Jeff Zrebeck. And something I forgot to mention, speaking of Jeff, he has told people on Twitter who have asked that he thinks that Patrick Ricard had suffered a setback. It wasn't that it's just taking longer. Jeff says he thinks that there was a setback going on with Patrick Ricard and that they expected him much sooner, if not week 1.
Yeah, what's it been? August 9th, 14th? So one of those two dates. The other one was attached to Jair, and memory's just not serving me right now. But it's been a long time since Pat Ricard has formally practiced with this team, and yet they're still hanging 40 burgers. They need 42 out there, Sarah. They need it, especially when you want to run the football against fronts like Cleveland and Detroit. They're going to have something to say about that defensively speaking. We know that their offense is the more high-powered unit. With Jared Goff and Jamison Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, this is without question so far to date the stiffest challenge up there with the Buffaloes. We'll see what happens with Kansas City in a couple weeks. They're staring at 0-2 in the face and look the most vulnerable they've ever been, dare I say it, throughout the Mahomes-Reed dynasty. And then we know it doesn't get any easier leading into the bye week. So it's a murderer's row beginning first 6 weeks or so for the Ravens, and then they'll have a very early bye coming up in October. And we know that there's a lot of AFC North games that are backloaded in this regular season schedule. So there really are no, areas of breathing room here, which is why you got to stack wins leading up to the bye, after the bye, and of course leading into the postseason. But that is sort of our inside linebacker, middle linebacker conversation, all of which began with number 52, Sarah, getting in Roquan's ear before he put forth one of his best games on tape as a Raven.